Good evening and welcome to the COVID-19 update on Channels Television. I'm Millicent Walker. First, the highlights. As the country celebrates its independence, Nigeria's President Muhammadu Buhari says last 18 months were some of the most difficult for the country, owing partly to the pandemic. Lagos State Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu celebrates containment of third wave in the state. And South Africa downgrades alertness level to 1 as it gets over third wave of COVID-19. Happy Independence Day, Nigeria. It's a day marking 61 years the country gained independence from Britain. On this day, 1960, Africa's most populous country became a sovereign republic, an anniversary commemorated as Nigeria's Independence Day. While the festivities begin with the president's address to the people before parade by the armed forces, there are also celebrations by state governments. And to mark the country's 61st independence anniversary, as is customary, the president delivered his speech in a nationwide broadcast addressing several milestones and also issues bedeviling the country. This is an anniversary marked under the second year of the coronavirus pandemic, and the president in his speech said the collective efforts of Nigerians have averted the worst effects of the pandemic, while urging all to observe the non-pharmaceutical interventions and get vaccinated. He revealed plans to explore options for acquisition of vaccines.
We shall invest more to support our pharmaceutical and research agencies to come up with ideas for locally developed vaccines. Should another pandemic arise in the future, our question is simple. Will Nigeria be ready? Accordingly, I have directed the Ministries of Finance, Budget and National Planning, Health, Education, Science and Technology to work with Nigerian and international pharmaceutical companies and research organizations to enhance Nigeria's domestic pharmaceutical capacity. Already, the Nigerian Sovereign Investment Authority is raising a $200 million United States dollars fund for this initiative that will complement the Central Bank of Nigeria's ongoing 85 billion naira healthcare sector research and development intervention scheme to support local researchers in the development of vaccines and drugs to combat communicable and non-communicable diseases, including COVID-19. Fellow Nigerians, this is just the beginning. Similarly, on our approach to food security, I am proud to announce Nigeria has commenced its journey to pharmaceutical independence. This journey, which will take years to achieve, but will ultimately result in Nigerian-based companies developing the active pharmaceutical substances and the competence needed for us to make our own drugs and vaccines.
Nigeria's President Muhammadu Buhari. On this day a year ago, the SARS-CoV-2 virus had spread to all 36 states and the FCT. The NCDC had reported 153 confirmed cases in 14 states, and the total confirmed cases at the time were at 59,001, while samples tested was almost 530,000. The country had lost 1,112 persons to the disease. Now in its second year on the eve of the 61st anniversary, with over 3 million tests conducted, the agency, which continues to coordinate the national response activities of infectious diseases, the Nigeria Center for Disease Control, reported 281 new confirmed cases and 19 deaths, putting total figures of confirmed cases at more than 3 times the number it was a year ago. Here's more on the update.
281 additional persons in Nigeria have tested positive to COVID-19 in the last 24 hours. According to the Nigeria Center for Disease Control, the latest figures were reported from 12 states and the FCT, a decline from the figures reported earlier. The FCT had the highest number of infections with 111 cases, followed by Lagos, which had 34 cases. 33 cases were recorded in Edo. Kwara and Plateau had 20 cases each, while Rivers registered 17 cases. Abia registered 10 cases, Imo had 8 cases, Delta and Nasarawa logged 7 cases each, Ekiti had 6, Akwa Ibom 3, while Oyo had 2. There were backlogs of 10 deaths reported from Delta and 0 cases from Kano and Sokoto states. The overall count of confirmed cases in Nigeria now stands at 205,765. 135 people have been discharged in the last 24 hours, increasing the total number of recoveries to 193,617. 19 additional deaths from COVID-19 complications were reported in the last 24 hours, raising the fatality toll to 2,720. Presently, there are more than 9,000 active cases in Nigeria, while over 3 million samples have been tested so far. Over 4.8 million eligible Nigerians targeted for COVID-19 vaccination have been reached with the first dose, while over 2 million persons have been fully vaccinated. In Africa, there are more than 8.3 million confirmed cases and over 211,000 deaths recorded across countries on the continent. The total global confirmed cases have now surpassed 233 million, while deaths are beyond 4.7 million.
As against the celebrations today, the Lagos State Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu announced that the COVID-19 third wave has been successfully contained. And he said that progress has been made so far in the state as a result of the proactive steps taken by the state government. Meanwhile, his counterpart in the southeast, the Imo State Governor Hope Uzodinma, used the occasion to highlight steps the state has taken to contain COVID-19, reminding residents to get vaccinated and discard vaccine myths.
This time last year, we're all ravaging and we're all being held by the COVID-19 pandemic. But I'm glad to inform you that whilst we're not completely out of it, Lagos State government has been able to stem this tide. We have overcome the third wave of the COVID-19 and we're on our way to admonish it completely from our territory and from our state. I therefore want to enjoin all of us to not leave anything undone, to continue to listen to all of the non-pharmaceutical protocols and to use this opportunity to once again thank and encourage all of our frontline health workers for keeping each and every of our citizens safe.
It is important to emphasize that the best preventive measure is through vaccination. The state government has received and procured sufficient vaccines for our people. Sadly, however, many are still refusing to take the vaccine because some unfounded facetious beliefs are what is driving them. But at the end of time, let me state it clearly that the vaccines are safe as confirmed by world-class scientists and World Health Organizations. No one has any further reason to be afraid of taking the vaccine. In this respect, if the food dragging continues, government might be forced to make the vaccine compulsory for all Igbo people and residents. We might also take the further step of insisting that no one can do any business with government without the evidence of vaccination.
And a technical advisory group on COVID-19 vaccine composition, TAG-COVAC, has been established. The independent group of experts will periodically review the evidence and analyze implications of emerging variants of concerns, VOCs, on the performance of COVID-19 vaccines. And renowned virologist Professor Oyewale Tomori has been appointed into the WHO Technical Advisory Group on COVID-19 vaccine composition. And he joins us now virtually. Should I say congratulations are in order and happy Independence Day. Before we talk about TAG-COVAC, I'd like to ask your thoughts. The president's speech today, and he sort of said that Nigeria is making inroads into the pharmaceutical world, amongst other things that he talked about, the promise for curbing COVID-19 from the country.
Thank you very much, and thank you again. I was quite surprisingly enthused by the president's speech, where he dwelled quite a lot on research and the pharmaceutical industry. I think only yesterday the Ministry of Health launched the vaccine policy for Nigeria. So obviously steps are being made, to make sure that at least we get out of the situation where we are a bigger nation. But my worry has been that presidents before him have said even better things, but it's the implementation that worries me. It's not he alone that can do it. I want to appeal to our parliamentarians, to the civil servants, those people who implement all of these great ideas. Don't forget personal interest and let's move up on national interest so that we can achieve what the president is dreaming about. We have been dreaming about this for a long time. Time for us to wake up from the dream and get this done properly.
And talking about implementation, TAG-COVAC, what is expected of the Technical Advisory Group on COVID-19 vaccine in this fight against the pandemic?
Yeah, I think the job of the group is to periodically review what is happening, what's the impact of these variants of concern on available vaccines. Do we make new vaccines? Do we work with manufacturers to make new vaccines? Or do we see what other advice can we give to make sure that the vaccines we have are working effectively? And so that requires us to monitor the data from every country and see what is happening, and then use that as a way to provide policy advice to WHO and also to industry.
What will be the frequency of the meetings, and also in the same findings, especially with the variants, is there a possibility that there might be newer strains and we might have a problem on our hands with the vaccines that we currently have?
For the immediate, for now, at the beginning, we'll probably be meeting twice, 2 times in a month, and then we'll watch and see where the problem is, whether it's going to be a monthly meeting. As to the other question, I was quite happy when I listened to the governors this morning on the Independence Day. But I think I need to caution a little bit. We've had first wave, second wave, third wave. So fourth wave can still come if we don't abide by those non-pharmaceutical interventions. It was because we failed to abide by those ones that the other waves came. So let's not go around with the picture that we are out of the woods. I know the governor of Lagos State said we have overcome. But then it's like we have won a battle. The war is still going on. And I think we must let our people know. And I noticed a lot of the people in some of those pictures you are seeing, many of them are not even wearing their masks. So you say one thing, you are demonstrating one thing. We need to match our words with our action.
We appreciate your time. Thank you for joining us this Independence Day edition. Professor Oyewale Tomori, always a pleasure.
My pleasure. Thank you very much.
Still to come on the program, South Africa is offering hard-hit industries some relief as lockdown moves to alert level 1. Please join us again. South Africa has loosened lockdown restrictions from adjusted level 2 to 1 as the third COVID-19 surge has been officially declared over. Speaking to the nation Thursday night, President Cyril Ramaphosa announced that the curfew in place is now from midnight to 4 a.m. Restaurants can now stay open till 11 p.m. and numbers for indoor meetings has increased to 750, while outdoors is 2,000. Sports and concert crowds as well as night vigils are still prohibited and face masks are still compulsory. Our South Africa Bureau Chief Betty Dibia reports.
To talk to you about 4 matters.
President Cyril Ramaphosa's Thursday night address covered 4 major areas: progress on the national vaccination campaign, measures to open up the economy further, the national vaccination certificate issue, and engagements to remove South Africa from the United Kingdom's COVID-19 red list, now that the country is officially over the COVID third wave.
Following the meetings of the National Coronavirus Command Council and the President's Coordinating Committee, Cabinet has decided to move South Africa from adjusted level 2 to adjusted alert level 1.
He renewed his appeal for more people to get vaccinated as he personally leads the country on a nationwide vaccination drive called Vuma Weekends, starting this weekend. So far, 17.5 million people have taken the jab and 8.6 million fully. The target is to have 70% of the adult population fully vaccinated by the end of the year. That's an additional 16 million people. And now the vaccination certificate story is official.
Our approach on this matter is informed by the World Health Organization's guidelines and is in line with international best practice. Streamlining and standardizing proof of vaccination will also go a long way towards getting a number of international travel restrictions, both from and into our country, eased.
South Africa remains on the UK's COVID-19 red list, and the country is not happy about it. There have been engagements between scientists from both countries, but no resolution is still on the cards. South Africa's largest tourism numbers come from the United Kingdom, as South Africa's summer season begins this month. President Ramaphosa says he has also had a telephone conversation with the UK's Prime Minister Boris Johnson on this.
I put South Africa's case to him, which he understood very well. And we both agreed that decisions of this nature should be informed by science, and we are both hopeful of a positive outcome when the issue comes up for review in the coming days by their scientists.
As more business sectors heave a sigh of relief more than others with the latest ease-up measures, the President says to those who are demanding an end to the national state of disaster and lockdown restrictions that government remains guided by the scientists who still advise that caution should still be the watchword. From Johannesburg, South Africa, Betty Dibia, Channels Television News.
Some German states are lifting most of their remaining coronavirus-related restrictions today. Officials are still concerned by the impact of the pandemic and have urged citizens to continue to take precautions. However, officials said new infections are low enough for restrictions to be lifted. European economies have been able to take large steps towards reopening thanks to strong vaccine rollouts, but some have gone further than others. Deutsche Welle correspondent Chelsea Delaney joins us now for more. Hello, Chelsea. Sweden this week lifted nearly all of its coronavirus restrictions. What drove that decision?
Well, the primary reason is really the vaccination rate. About 80% of the adult population is fully vaccinated now in Sweden, and the particularly vulnerable population, so the elderly, people living in nursing homes, are almost completely vaccinated. So Sweden's government believes that the overall health risk from the virus is now low. But it's also worth pointing out that from the beginning, Sweden has taken a very different approach to the virus than much of the rest of the world. It hasn't done strict lockdowns. It hasn't required masks. It's mostly made voluntary recommendations for social distancing and also imposed some capacity limits on events. That hands-off strategy hasn't always worked. Sweden saw much higher death rates than its neighbors, but the government believes that because of the vaccination rate, it will be different this time around. And even though cases have been on the rise recently due to the Delta variant, death rates there remain quite low.
What is the picture like in the rest of Europe?
It really varies. Sweden's Scandinavian neighbors, so Norway and Denmark, have also lifted most or all of their COVID restrictions. The rest of Europe has been easing many restrictions, but there are still a lot of rules in place. The most common, which we have here in Germany, but also in countries like Italy and France, is the requirement to show proof of vaccination, a negative test, or proof that you have recovered from the virus to do indoor activities like eating inside at restaurants or going to cinemas. Masks are still largely required while indoors. Here, for example, on public transit, and many countries have also moved to make vaccines mandatory for workers in particular industries, for example, healthcare workers. Most countries continue to rely on restrictions, even if they're not as harsh as, say, stay-at-home orders we saw in the early stages of the pandemic. So this sort of no-rules approach, as we're seeing in Sweden, Norway, Denmark, is definitely an outlier in Europe.
Well, finally, back to where you are, Chelsea. Is it likely that all states in Germany could abandon COVID restrictions soon?
I'd say it's unlikely, and actually we've seen this become a big source of controversy recently. A public health expert called for Germany to make October 30th its Freedom Day, where it lifts all COVID-related restrictions. The argument was that Germany's vaccination rate is high, about 77% of the adult population is now fully vaccinated, and other countries like the UK that have lifted restrictions have been coping relatively well. But there was pretty immediate backlash to this idea. Political leaders say it's too soon to discuss a specific date for ending restrictions, and actually they say the vaccination rate isn't high enough, especially in some older age groups as well. The colder months are now approaching, kids are returning to school, and we saw last year just how quickly a new wave of infections mounted as people were indoors more. So I'd expect Germany to take a more wait-and-see approach as we head into the winter.
Thanks a lot, Chelsea Delaney, Deutsche Welle correspondent, joining us there from Berlin. Australia will reopen its international borders from November, giving long-awaited freedoms to vaccinated citizens and their relatives. Since March 2020, it has had some of the worst, strictest border rules, even banning its own people from leaving the country. The policy has been praised for helping to suppress COVID, but it has also controversially separated families. Here's more on the global update.
Prime Minister Scott Morrison announced that Australians will soon be allowed to travel overseas, 18 months after they were forced to lock down within their country as the coronavirus pandemic began sweeping across the globe.
It will be time very soon that we will be able to open those international borders again, and that will enable Australians who are fully vaccinated and Australians and residents of Australia who are overseas, who are fully vaccinated, to be able to travel again and to be able to lift those caps on our airports in states where they have moved into phase C of the program. And that is where Australia is now preparing to move. This will happen next month.
Plans to allow tourists and other foreign travellers into the country will be worked out soon following the first phase of reopening. Japan has emerged out of a COVID state of emergency for the first time in more than 6 months. The emergency measures ended on Thursday evening, although mask rules and public transportation are still in place. Israel's health ministry has identified fewer than 10 cases of heart inflammation following a third dose of the Pfizer-BioNTech vaccine among millions administered.
Israel is the pioneer of the third dose of the vaccines against the COVID virus. We're seeing profound efficacy of the vaccines. It's working, it's safe, and it's the way to defeat this virus.
Israel began administering boosters to risk groups in July, and by the end of August expanded its campaign to include anyone above the age of 12, 5 months or more after a second dose. According to interim clinical trial results, Merck & Co. incorporated experimental oral drug for COVID-19, molnupiravir, reduced by around 50% the chance of hospitalization or death for patients at risk of severe disease. The company plans to seek U.S. emergency use authorization for the pill as soon as possible and to submit applications to regulatory agencies worldwide.
And as we mark today's independence anniversary, let's celebrate responsibly as we also reflect on the peace and prosperity of our nation. Your home for the news is Channels Television, and you can visit our website. It has the latest breaking news and also a better understanding of the pandemic. Several other stories, all at your fingertips. It's www.channelstv.com. That's our program this evening. Thank you for watching. I'm Millicent Walker. Stay healthy.